Welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. I'm your host, Austin Becker, and this is your home for adventure, travel, addiction, recovery, the outdoor and ski industry, and of course, redemption. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. This week, I don't have a guest. You guys requested that I do some more solo episodes about my story. So without further ado, here we go. The last episode that I did about my story was Austin Does Boston, which I believe was episode 10. Episode 10 was a lot. That was my final and arguably my worst run. I found myself on the streets in Boston, homeless, doing horrible things with horrible people. And I got to a point that I didn't recognize myself anymore. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why I ended up in the place that I did when I would think back like 5 or 6 years before that. Traveling all around, I'm skiing, everything's going great, I got the sponsors, everything is just going perfectly. But I found myself in this extremely dark place when I was in Boston, which led me to where I am today. So, around the end of 2017 is when I started my run in Boston. As I mentioned in that last episode, for those of you that might not have listened to it, I would go listen to that one first and then precursor into this one. I ended up in Portland, Oregon, and my best friend, Brianna Fox, from, we're talking little kids, she saved my life. I probably don't give her enough credit today. As we all do, I don't call friends enough, and it weighs heavy on me at times thinking about the people that played major roles in my recovery, played major roles in my sobriety, and reach out to your friends. It's the holidays. Tell your friends that you love them. Tell your friends that you see them and you recognize them. So here's my little shout out to Brianna Fox. Thank you. Happy holidays. Congratulations on the new engagement. You guys are amazing. You hosted me in Seattle a couple of years ago, and that was the first time that I got to meet Brianna's soon-to-be husband, and now looking back almost 10 years ago, I was in the worst place I could have possibly been in. And if it wasn't for Brianna, I wouldn't be alive today. So I was in Boston. I got to Portland, Oregon, where she was, and her dad was there. Her dad, Andrew, was a ski coach of mine growing up. Big mentor of mine in the ski world. He was on the U.S. freestyle ski team, Moguls, back in the day, and played a big role in my, let's say, early childhood development in terms of like things that I loved and getting into competitive skiing. He was a major driving force, and he was also in recovery, and he was there in Seattle, and he said, "You ready to get sober?" And at the time I was not. I definitely was not ready to get sober, but I knew that if I didn't, I was going to die. The suicidal ideations, my body was literally falling apart. I had really bad jaundice. My liver was failing. My eyes were yellow. My skin was yellow. It was bad. And something came over me, and he drove me 24 hours straight from Portland, Oregon, back to Southern California, where I'm from, and got me to Lake Arrowhead, and I convinced my dad to fly me back to the East Coast to get to Foundation House. And, all of this is in the last episode, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of, head start. It's been a while, 25 episodes since that episode came out. So, I ended up back in Boston. My dad helped me fly there, and I knew something had come over me that I was like, man, I'm ready to do this thing. And so I went through a detox in Boston. I went through a 90-day kind of Alcoholics Anonymous boot camp program in Canterbury, New Hampshire. And then I found myself at Foundation House, and that's where episode 10 left off. And that's where my life took a major turn in the right direction. From driving cars into churches, stealing cars, totaling my car, taking everyone in my life down with me, doing every drug that you could think of. People used to ask me what was my drug of choice, and I said, whatever you have. And that's the truth. I was a yes man to anything. Even if it, in my head, made me feel uncomfortable, I did it. I did it anyways. And it was bad. It was bad for a really long time. And Foundation House, Patrick Babcock, Woody Hayward, those are the two men that truly saved my life for the long term. And, I got to have Woody on the podcast here a few weeks ago, and man, was that a special experience for me. Going back to Portland, Maine, going back and being able to talk to the guys in the program and being back, standing on the other side of the room, not in the group, but in front of the group, was a really special experience in a lot of ways. And Foundation House. Hi, Mika. Yep. Okay. A little bit of an interruption there. Had to get the dogs away. But to continue on where I was, Foundation House was a very special experience for me. It showed me what community and connection are. It showed me what truly works when it comes to mental health and substance use recovery. And I preach this a lot, that community and connection, community and connection, community and connection. That's truly what saved my life. There wasn't many things that played a more major role than Woody Hayward, Patrick Babcock, the owner of Foundation House, and the guys in the house, and those relationships that have been created out of that. It was a different approach to recovery. It was an approach that truly saved my life, and I learned to have that community and connection, and in those bonds that I created over the years were, man, special. I got to go back to Maine a few weeks ago for one of my best friend Mike Monero's wedding, and he married just an incredible human being, Leah, who I just adore, and they're my best friends and people that have had my back since the beginning. And yeah, that was a long time ago that we met in that program, and now all these years later, I'm a groomsman in the guy's wedding. It's crazy to think about. It really is. It's really crazy to think about. But that wouldn't have been possible without those relationships, without those connections. And, I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that things like Alcoholics Anonymous, any of the anonymous programs, that's the whole idea behind it is community and connection, having a place that you can talk to people about these things. And a space that you're not going to be judged, and it builds that community, and it builds those friendships that you oftentimes would never have outside of going into those rooms. And community and connection are still what saved my life today. The friends that I have here in Colorado, and all in the ski world and in the creative world of photo and video, those are the people that are holding me up. And the people that I'm still close with from Foundation House, those are the people that are holding me up. I haven't talked a lot about this, but I do have some pretty exciting news. Myself and 4 other individuals start production on a film called Streets to Peaks that I am like blown away, excited about. I met the right people at the right time. I was speaking at the Winter Park Film Festival, and I met a guy named Josh Finbow, who's a director and cinematographer and production house owner from Hollywood. And I told him about this project idea that I had about how action sports and mental health bind together in a lot of different ways, and how in action sports we're always kind of in that fight mode where our amygdalas are high. We're in this like fear center, and when you take those things away, it's like, what do you do? And for a lot of us, it's drinking, self-medicating, and not having the resources in mountain towns in particular to have any way out, any hope. And I'm going to be able to do this film alongside some really awesome people from the action sports world. Alex Schlopy, Peterson, myself, Connor Nelson, Jenna Henry from Utah, and it's going to be our collective stories and how we've struggled with mental health and addiction and turned our lives around. And we hope that through this film, we're really able to start the conversation of mental health within action sports and no resources in mountain towns, and give people a space to watch this film and realize that they're not alone. Because a lot of people can feel that way. A lot of people do feel alone, and you're not alone. I'm recording this the day after Christmas, and Christmas was a really difficult time for me when I was struggling. All the holidays were. I would ruin Thanksgiving dinner. I'd get too drunk and cause a scene at Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinners, any birthdays, what have you. The holidays were a really tough time for me, and I was posting on my social medias, just giving people an open space to talk, because I know how difficult the holidays can be. And it was really cool to have a holiday basically all to myself. I went home for Thanksgiving. I didn't go home for Christmas, and I woke up and went up to Winter Park and skied at Mary Jane, and then on the way out it started snowing. I said, let's catch a quick lap on Berthoud's, and so I did a couple backcountry laps on Berthoud's, and then came back, and my godmother and her kids live here in Denver, and they hosted me for Christmas dinner, and I got to have an awesome holiday without anything, without drugs or alcohol, without sorrow. It was just happiness, and that is possible. There is the ability to experience what I experience on a daily basis if you are struggling. And I know I'm kind of all over the place here, and my story bounces around, but there's a lot of things that are happening this time of year, and I'm actually just gonna share this, because man, did it really hit me hard. A good friend of mine, Joakim, sent me a text message yesterday, that really, really hit home for me, and I'm gonna read it to you guys. And Joakim, I know you listen to the podcast, and I hope that this isn't spilling the beans or anything too much, but I wanted to share this because of how much it meant to me. And at the end of the day, I don't do this podcast to make money. I don't do this podcast to bring success or anything. I do this podcast to give people a space to listen and hope that they don't feel so alone. So I sent Joakim yesterday a text message just saying, "Merry Christmas, my brother," and he quickly responded and said, "Thank you, my brother. Sweet wishes from you after hearing a Neil Young song that brought me to tears because I missed my uncle, who decided to take his own life 21 years ago. Makes messages like yours and the things you're doing to share with the world the struggles of mental health so incredibly important. I appreciate you, and I am so stoked to hear some more solo episodes. Merry Christmas indeed, Austin." And that brought me to tears reading that. Like I mentioned, the point of this podcast is so that people don't have to go through that, so that people feel that there is a way out. My friend Jenna, who's doing the film with us, she does a suicide prevention fundraiser at Snowbird every year, and I was lucky enough to be alongside her last year to do that fundraiser with her and watch her vision come to life, and so many people asking questions, and this like generalized interest in what we were doing, not shying away from it, no stigma, none of that. Like people actually caring about what she had created, and it was a really cool thing to watch and be a part of. And that's something we're going to be highlighting in her segment of the film is her fundraiser and the skiing and the community that it builds. And I hope that through initiatives like Jenna's doing, through this podcast, through things like my friend Drew are doing with his film and our film that's going to be coming out and starting production soon, is that we give people hope. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is to never forget that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that even when that light gets really dim, hard to see, it's still on, and there still is hope, and there are resources. Even in mountain towns where people struggle, there are resources, and telehealth and modern technology give people the ability to be able to speak with professionals and right from their phone, and that's a pretty special thing. And I truly hope that the holiday seasons are beautiful for everyone listening to this, and I know that they're not for everyone, and I know that there's people listening to this that the holidays have been difficult so far, and just know that you can reach out to me. My DMs are open, my email, shoot me a message, and I'm happy to talk. I had a pretty special Christmas this year, and I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. Just realizing how far I had come from April will be 7 years clean, safe, and sober, and it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride indeed, and being able to stand up on Berthoud skiing and thinking to myself, whoa, 7 Christmases ago didn't look like this. That was a pretty special moment for me, and I hope that anyone that is struggling knows that it's possible. It's possible to live a happy, joyous life without drugs or alcohol, without depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, all these things. It's possible. So, back to my story a little bit. I spent several years at Foundation House. I was in the house for 19 months, and it's kind of like an extended care sort of program where you can live your life. You live in a house, you can get a job, but you still have all of the therapists and everything that you do during the day, and you can work at night, and there's curfews and structure, and they're like an outdoor adventure program. So that's where I learned to love getting in the outdoors again, get back to skiing, hiking, adventuring, kayaking, all these things. And I realized, man, you can actually have fun in recovery, and that's a pretty cool thing. I thought you needed drugs and alcohol to have fun. I thought you needed all those things to have fun, but holy shit, I'm having way more fun now than I did when drugs and alcohol were involved. My life is a million times better without question. I don't wake up feeling like shit. I don't wake up not knowing what I had done the day before, wondering whose car I crashed, wondering which friend I ruined their day or their evening. I don't have to worry about any of that. I get to go to bed every single night, put my head on the pillow, and realize it's another day sober. That's another 24 hours I knocked off. And the 24 hours keep stacking up, and those 24 hours seem to just be getting better and better. And man, did I never in a million years thought any of this was going to be possible. And I find myself living a life of my wildest dreams, traveling the world, skiing, having a podcast to share with you guys, owning a marketing agency, and all of these things that I never in a million years thought would have been possible. Never. And it's pretty cool. So, 19 months in a program, you start to get really close with people, and I learned to love Austin again. I learned to love skiing, adventuring, all these things again that I used to love in my past. And they became a huge part of my life again. And I was working kind of a dead-end job at a golf course, just paying the bills, paying my rent at the sober house, and I was kind of like a caddy, groomsman, all the different things. I was kind of a jack of all trades at the golf course, and the COO, this guy Will Hutchinson, of Foundation House, came to golf at the course I was at, and he pulled up and I saw him, so I went over to his cart and was helping him get his bag on the cart, and he looked at me and said, "Don't you have like a background in photo, video, kind of marketing stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I do actually." And he said, "Why are you working this dead-end job, man? Why don't you come into Foundation House on Monday?" This was like on a Friday or the weekend or something. He said, "Why don't you come in on Monday, sit down with me. I want you to possibly come on the Foundation House team and work on the marketing side of things and do photo and video and website design and everything that goes into the marketing side of healthcare." And it seemed like a dream come true, or I couldn't believe what he was saying. And so I was making like $11 an hour at this golf course, and I like, oh man, is this finally like a real job? And so I like went out and I got a haircut and I bought a nice shirt, and I showed up at Foundation House on that Monday and I started chatting, and I showed him my portfolio of work, and he shook my hand and said, "Welcome on the team." And what a door opening experience that was. I ended up working for Foundation House for about 3 years on the marketing, outreach, business development, photo, video sort of side of things, and man, it was an awesome experience. It was difficult, working in the addiction space. You do addiction and mental health. When people are actively struggling, it can be difficult. I've seen people having severe suicidal ideation. I had people overdose in front of me and had to use Narcan and save their lives, and it's a difficult thing and it weighs heavy over time, but overall the experience was really special. It finally gave me like purpose in my life, and I felt like I was doing something good for once. And it showed me my love for photography and creative media and all of these things again. And, you know, I think it was like a nesting ground for me. It was a safe space where I was working in an environment with a lot of people in recovery. Everyone was in recovery. And also being able to take my skills in the marketing world and apply them to something I was passionate about was a really cool experience for me. So I ended up working there for 3 years, and I was ready to flee the nest, for lack of a better term. And I had started my degree at CU Boulder and spent a lot of money and time on my first 2.5 or 3 years, and I was ready to come back to Colorado and finish my degree, and I did that. I did exactly that. So I had met someone in Maine, and her and I made the decision to move from Portland, Maine, back to Denver, Colorado, and I enrolled back in school. I finally was like fully on my own in a sense. You know, I think Portland, Maine was a really important place for me at the time. It was a safe place. It was a haven for me in a lot of senses, and I was ready to spread my wings. And so I got back to Denver. I enrolled back at the University of Colorado and started school and found a rehab here in the Denver area to work at, that I worked at part-time while I was going to school. And moving back here was, I think, difficult for me in the beginning. It was difficult for me in the beginning. Colorado was the start of kind of everything for me, the downhill spiral of my life. And, I had to axe like a lot of people from my previous life. And there's very few people from when I first moved to Colorado in 2014. There's very few of those people that I was close with at that time that I've kept around today. And really the main two that I've kept around are some of my closest friends. And I just got to go to one of their weddings here in Colorado, and they have stuck by me no matter what. And they had a front row view to my downfall, and they stuck around. The testament of friendship like that, you have no idea what that meant to me. And what it still does for me today, that these people loved me enough to stick around through all of my shit. Never gave up on me. Always gave me a place to stay, a place in an ear to talk to, a shoulder to cry on, whatever. They stuck around through the worst, and that's a really important and pretty amazing thing, because I let them know quite often how much that meant to me, but, it's hard to even put into words what that meant, and still means to me today, that they'd stick around with me through all of that. And so their relationships, their friendships to me when I came back to Colorado were really important, because it felt like I had people to talk to. I had some friends, and I think the first year and a half was really difficult for me in Colorado. It didn't feel like it did before. I wasn't really enjoying skiing like I used to, and everything kind of turned around when I met my core group of friends now. And again, testament to community and connection. And also gonna grab a sip of water here. So as I was saying that, the testament to that community and connection were, man, they were special. Having these new friends come into my life that were like as stoked as I was about the outdoors and skiing and getting out and doing awesome things all the time, it like reinvigorated this thing in me, and it was and still is the most important thing in my life. And I've got these group of core friends today that would do anything for me. I would do anything for them. We travel the world. We built businesses together. We ski, we adventure, we camp, we do everything together. And that community and that connection is, it's the most important thing to me in the world. There's nothing more important to me than community. And I've had the opportunity to build a community with people all over the world through my travels, and I feel like every time I go to a new city, a new country, a new whatever, there's always someone there, and that's it's a special thing. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and the friends today I wouldn't trade for the world, and it's been a really awesome few years now on the tail end of what I've been doing here in Colorado. It's been it's been special. My life has gone in ways that I could have never imagined. Could have never imagined the world that I've, in a sense, created. Little Austin with a bag of heroin in his hands 7 years ago didn't think that this was going to happen, and it did. And I attest all of that to the people in my life, the community and connections that I've built. And if you are struggling, feel it, but also know that there's a way out. There is. You guys have heard in previous episodes how dark it got for me. It was bad. And I'm sitting here today recording this podcast, sitting in front of a camera, and in a couple hours leaving to go up to Steamboat to chase this monster storm that's moving in like 40 inches over the next 5 days, and get to ski blower powder with all my closest friends, and staying at another close friend of mine house, who the guy's house that I'm staying at was my roommate in rehab at a rehab that I went to in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And all these years later, 10 years later, we still have that community and bond. And call him today. I said, "Hey man, you see the storm system moving in?" He said, "Yeah, you on the way? Come stay at the house." So off I go with some close friends of mine will be up there filming, and man, those opportunities weren't happening when I had a crack pipe in my hand. Those opportunities weren't possible when I was telling people to go fuck themselves, stealing cars, driving them into churches. That surely wasn't happening, skiing powder with friends. I mean, there's no friends on a powder day, I get it, but these friends can actually keep up, so they're on occasion they're going to be friends on a powder day. It's been a really wild ride for me, and I think we've covered quite a few different things here on this episode that shows my ADHD brain. And people ask me all the time, like, do you prepare notes for this podcast? And I'm like, no, because when I have guests on, I feel like if I'm like reading from like a teleprompter or have notes written, it just doesn't flow. It's not a conversation. It's more me trying to get questions in, and it just doesn't flow. So I'll do research about my guests and have things in my mind. But if I'm like reading from a script or something, or a teleprompter or notes or whatever, I just feel like it doesn't flow. And I didn't write anything for this. I listened to the last 10 episodes of the last solo episode I did to kind of pick up where I left off, and that's about it. So, In this episode, we covered me going Foundation House and the experience that was for me, getting back to Colorado and kind of struggling. Even though I was in recovery, I was still struggling with mental health and things, and got me to where I am today. We're doing an awesome film, Streets to Peaks, with an awesome production crew, with an awesome crew of skiers. We're calling it a mental health film with a touch of skiing. There will be like individual ski cuts. There's going to be a feature film length. There's going to be a short film length. They're going to get submitted to all the major film festivals. We're going to be taking it on tour. So, as we get closer to the release of the film, there'll be a lot of information on the podcast and on my socials about where you can see the film. We're going to be doing some awesome premieres and giveaways and all that. So more information to that, is to come. But my life today has been special. I'm going back to Alaska in March, right at the end of March into April, when their real stormy season stops, so we can actually ski some bigger lines and not be interrupted by massive storms. So we're getting back out there to film, and we'll be down at Silverton skiing and filming and doing a bunch of backcountry stuff in Utah. I'm leaving for Utah on January 9th. I'll be in Utah for a few weeks, seeing my friends up there, skiing. I'll be meeting Alex up there and Finbo, who's the director and stuff, doing some of the interview stuff for the film and kind of putting together like a sizzle for the film, like a small trailer. And it's all systems a go right now. The winter season has started and I feel extremely busy. It's been a bit overwhelming, but busy is good. I used to just be busy stealing shit to get money for drugs. I used to be busy thinking about how I was going to end my life. I used to be busy doing all the wrong things. And when we actually put our time and our energy and our efforts towards productive things in our lives, it's pretty amazing like what we can get out of it. I think about the years and years I spent just rotting away, and think about the life that I live now, and it's hard not to look back at those times and think, God, like life is so short, and I wasted so many years being miserable. But without those miserable moments, without those horrible times, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have the experiences that I have today. I wouldn't have the community, the connections. I don't know where my life would have gone. So all of those horrible times, breaking my spine, the spinal injury, my neck, my back, the drug addiction, the mental health, the suicide attempts, all those things were a culmination of how I got to where I am today. All those moments I would have taken in the moment, I would have been like, please stop. Like, I'll do anything to stop this. But now looking back on it, it opened the door to the life that I live today. And without it, I don't know where I would be. We can second guess everything. If I didn't break my back, would have I gotten addicted to the Oxycontin I was prescribed? You can second guess things for the rest of your life, but it got me to where I am today. I'm grateful for my past. I'm grateful for the present life that I'm living. I'm grateful for my family, my parents, Brad and Celia, for the lessons they taught me and the life that they gave me as a kid, and the resources that I needed when I was truly at my worst. They were there for me, and I know a lot of people don't have those resources, and I'm extraordinarily grateful for everything that my parents did for me, that my friends have done for me, the friends that have stuck around, the friends that left and never came back. They played a role too, an important one. And if you're in the trenches right now, if you're in the midst of it, just know it's shaping something beautiful in your life, that you will overcome this. You will get past what you're struggling with. The opposite of addiction is connection, and that is so true. Johann Hari is a legend for that line. Truly, truly, truly a legend for that line, and it's what I live by today. The opposite of mental health is connection. The opposite of addiction is connection. The opposite of depression is connection. The opposite of everything is connection. For me, connection, community, friends, family, love, support, it's what saved me. Even if you think you don't have any of those things, because there was a long period of time I didn't have that. The family even gave up. Everyone gave up. I was a lost cause. And when I started believing in me, all those things came back, and that's what has propelled me into long-term recovery, into long-term friendships and love and support and relationships. And being able to do what I do today is all because of the people that have my back, and I have theirs too. So that's what's going on in my life right now. That's a little update on my story. There's so many tidbit stories that I have written down and in notebooks and stuff that we'll have individual episodes on. I'm going to be doing these every other week now, and I'm going to jump back and forth and all around through my story to tell certain stories and how it relates to my life today. And there's people reach out all the time to me, friends of mine, and they're like, you got to tell the story about this or that or whatever. And those will come with time. So I just kind of wanted to give a brief overview of how I got from Boston to where I am today. Talk a little bit about the film. Talk a little bit about what I'm doing currently. I got to get packed up and go ski some blower powder and steamboat. This is a big system moving through, so I am really excited to ski some powder the next 5 or 6 days. And then we got some major travel coming up. I got Utah, I got Alaska. There'll be awesome stories coming out of those trips. And I'll leave you with this. I know how difficult the holidays can be. Know that I hear you. There's a space for you. There is resources, and if you need help with any of that, I cannot stress to you enough, please send me a message. Please reach out. Let's connect. Let's talk. Let's get a coffee. If you don't live in Denver, let's get on a phone call. Let's get on a FaceTime. Let's talk. Let's figure out how we can get through this together, because at the end of the day, it's togetherness. It's connection. It's community. I cannot thank the community of Falling Off the Floor podcast enough for the love and support you guys have given me in this open platform to talk about my story. It's been a wild ride. I can't thank you guys enough for listening, to giving me a space to do this, to the messages that you send, the love that I receive. I truly, 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 from the bottom of my heart, can't thank you guys enough. So on that note, happy holidays, happy new year, be safe out there. This can, again, be a difficult time. Reach out if you need it. Falling Off the Floor, solo episode with Austin. We are out. Thanks.